The unexpected assault. Andrew Parker gasped for air as the massive Romulan foot slammed into his back, driving him to his knees on the deck of the crippled human scout ship. Around him, his crew suffered similar treatment from the hulking alien warriors. Commander Spica, the Romulan leader, sneered down at his new captives. "Pitiful specimens," Spica taunted. "Your kind dares to challenge the might of the Romulan Star Empire. Conquering your planet will be child's play." Andrew gritted his teeth, biting back a retort. The Romulans dragged the humans to their feet, binding them in chains before hauling them into a Romulan shuttle. The shuttle rocketed down to a fortified holding facility on a nearby planet. Through the view screen, Andrew watched the Romulan technological marvels fly by: opulent cities, rings of orbital space stations, and legions of warships. Humanity's fledgling accomplishments seemed like the desperate scratchings of cavemen in comparison. Thrown into a fortified cell, the humans overheard their captors boasting of the impending invasion of Earth. Andrew slumped against the cold metal wall, his mind racing. He had to escape, had to find some way to warn Earth of the terrible threat descending upon them. He had to find some weakness in the Romulans' smug arrogance, some vulnerability to exploit. But what could one weak human hope to do against such crushing might? No, he would find a way. Humanity's freedom depended on it. Andrew gritted his teeth, racking his brain. The Romulans thought humans tiny and weak. They would soon learn how very wrong they were. The plan. Andrew's eyes flicked around the Romulan holding cell, his mind already working on a plan. The Romulan guards sneered as they delivered rations, their movements brimming with the casual arrogance of a race assured of its own superiority. Andrew leaned into his fellow captives, his voice a bare whisper. "Listen carefully. I have a plan, but I'll need each of you to be ready to act without hesitation when the time comes." His gaze held each of theirs in turn, his irises glinting with diamond-hard determination, until they nodded slowly. 3 rotations later, it began. The Romulans came as usual to deliver their meager supplies. The humans huddled in the center of the cell, projecting an aura of utter defeat. As the guards entered, a piercing shriek split the air. One of the humans was writhing on the deck, foaming at the mouth, his limbs jerking erratically. The guards faltered, momentarily stupefied by the unexpected development. That hesitation was all Andrew needed. He lunged at the closest Romulan, his hands clamping down on a nerve cluster he had observed during their captivity. The behemoth bellowed in shock and pain. Dropping his weapon, Andrew scooped it up and fired, the compression beam punching gaping holes through the other guard's armor. Within minutes, the guards lay unconscious and trussed with their own restraints. "Go, go, go," Andrew hissed, leading the way out of the cell at a crouching run. They sprinted through the passageways, stunning the few Romulans they encountered with swift blows and suppressive fire. The bay doors hissed open, revealing a sleek assault shuttle. Andrew motioned his team aboard, his fingers already flying over the unfamiliar controls as he settled into the pilot's chair. Alarms howled to life as the craft lurched spaceward, disruptor blasts searing past the view screen. Andrew wrenched the ship into a corkscrewing dive, weaving between the stabbing beams with preternatural skill. Massive warships lumbered towards them, their hulls jam-packed with batteries. Andrew flung the nimble shuttle into a dizzying array of twists and turns, the inertial dampeners straining to compensate. Torpedoes shot past, near misses rattling the hull. His fingers danced across the console, coaxing out every iota of speed. There, a gap between 2 destroyers, their turrets tracking too slowly to lock on. With a last barrel roll, the shuttle punched through, Andrew frantically inputting coordinates. The warp drive thrummed to life, stars stretching into lines of light as they jumped to FTL speeds, the furious Romulans receding behind them. "We did it," one of the humans breathed, slumping back in his crash harness. Andrew just shook his head, his expression grim. "That was the easy part, and we're not heading straight for Earth. We need a detour first." The secret weapon. The shuttle sliced through the interstellar void, its course set for a nondescript asteroid field. There, nestled among the space rocks, drifted a hidden station so black it was nearly invisible, a research outpost beyond top secret. It was Earth's last desperate hope. Andrew landed the Romulan craft in the station's cramped bay, hurrying out to a wary reception from the outpost's small staff. His words came out in a rush as he was ushered into the main lab. The Romulans are coming. A full-scale invasion. I have crucial intel on their capabilities. He broke off as a sharp-eyed Japanese man in a white coat strode forward. You're Andrew Parker, the leader of the Explorer team. It wasn't a question. I'm Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, head of this project. His handshake was quick, perfunctory. Tell me everything you know about their capabilities. As Andrew laid out what he had gleaned in captivity, Nakamura's expression grew even graver. As I feared, we've long suspected this day would come. My team has been preparing for it. He tapped a console, schematics springing to life in the air. Railgun turrets capable of launching relativistic projectiles, an AI battle coordination system, prototype energy shielding, and more. Andrew studied the images, eyes intent. How soon can these be implemented? The Romulans will reach Earth in months, if not weeks. Nakamura blew out a breath. They're still in development, untested. Then let's get to work, Andrew said grimly. We'll test them in the field if we have to. As they dove into the problems, a realization clicked into place in Andrew's mind. Puzzle pieces assembling. The Romulans, for all their technology, are critically dependent on their warp drives, both for travel and defense. If we could disrupt that. Nakamura's eyes narrowed. An interesting notion. Risky, but it may be the edge we need. Andrew straightened, the burden of humanity's fate settling heavily on his shoulders. Then that's our strategy. We integrate these new systems and find a way to knock out those warp drives. He met Nakamura's gaze. We have to. Because if we can't stop the Romulans. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. They both knew the stakes. Mobilizing for war. Andrew Parker's fists slammed down on the podium, his voice ringing out through the UEG council chambers. You don't understand. The Romulans are coming, and they'll crush us if we don't act now. Murmurs rippled through the assembled leaders. Some nodded grimly, while others shook their heads in disbelief. This is madness, Councillor Jaya interjected. We can't throw ourselves into an interstellar war based on one man's wild claims. Andrew's eyes flashed. He gestured to Dr. Nakamura, who stepped forward with a datapad. Show them. Holographic projections sprang to life, filling the air with schematics of Romulan warships and weapons. Andrew walked the council through each display, outlining the alien empire's technological edge. But we're not defenseless, Andrew continued. He nodded to Nakamura again, and new schematics appeared. Railguns, shield generators, and more. These prototypes can give us a fighting chance. We need to move fast, build them out, get our fleet ready. Hours of heated debate followed. Andrew's throat was raw from arguing, but he refused to back down. Finally, Admiral Chen rose. I've seen enough, the grizzled officer declared. Parker's right. We mobilize for war, effective immediately. Within days, Andrew found himself aboard the newly christened UES Perseverance. All around him, crews scrambled to install Dr. Nakamura's experimental tech. Andrew pored over tactical displays, coordinating the deployment of Earth's fledgling defense fleet. A shout from the sensor station broke his concentration. Sir, we've detected a transmission burst to Romulan space. Andrew's blood ran cold. They'd been compromised. Source it. It came from the UEG chamber. Sir. Andrew closed his eyes, his mind racing. They'd lost the element of surprise. There was only one option left. All ships, this is Parker, he broadcast to the fleet. Commence Operation Thunderbolt. Now. The next hours were a blur of frantic activity. Andrew's ship struck hard and fast at Romulan scout vessels prodding Earth's defenses. Railguns tore through alien hulls with shocking effectiveness. But the victories were short-lived. A vast Romulan armada dropped out of warp, dwarfing the human fleet. Andrew gritted his teeth. "All ships, concentrate fire on their warp drives," he ordered. "Hit and fade. Don't let them box us in." The battle raged across the solar system. Human ships darted between lumbering Romulan cruisers, their experimental weapons punching above their weight class. But for every Romulan ship disabled, two more seemed to take its place. A massive dreadnought suddenly loomed before the Perseverance, weapons blazing. Andrew recognized the markings. Warlord Spica himself had joined the fray. Evasive action. Andrew shouted as the ship rocked under withering fire. Their shields were failing, hull breaches on multiple decks. He watched Spica's ship maneuver for a killing blow. "Sir, we can't take another hit like that," his XO warned. Andrew's mind raced. A desperate plan formed. "Prep for emergency warp jump on my mark. Now." The Perseverance vanished in a flash of light, reappearing an instant later practically on top of Spica's flagship. "All weapons, fire." The point-blank barrage crippled the Romulan vessel, but the Perseverance was badly wounded as well, limping away from the stricken enemy flagship. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "Romulan fleet's in disarray. Spica's retreating." Andrew allowed himself a grim smile. "Press the attack. Target those warp drives." For a brief, shining moment, it seemed Earth might emerge victorious against impossible odds. Then new alarms blared. "Multiple warp signatures detected," the sensor officer reported, his voice heavy. It's another Romulan fleet, sir. At least as large as the first." Andrew stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. They were out of ships, out of tricks, almost out of hope. But he refused to give up. Humanity's survival depended on what he did next. "Get me a secure channel to Dr. Nakamura," he ordered, "and prepare all remaining ships for a fighting retreat to Mars orbit. We're not done yet." The final stand. Andrew's fingers flew across the console, uploading the experimental AI combat software to the fleet. The bridge of the Perseverance hummed with tension as systems came online. "All ships, this is Parker. Engage networked targeting matrix on my mark." A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the comms. Andrew took a deep breath, watching the swarm of Romulan ships grow larger on the screen. "Execute." In an instant, the human fleet moved as one. Ships scattered in seemingly random patterns, confusing Romulan targeting systems. But there was method to the madness. The AI calculated trajectories with inhuman speed. Andrew watched in awe as his ships danced through space, weaving an intricate web around the Romulan armada. Fire. Railguns lit up the void, synchronized volleys of hypervelocity slugs slamming into Romulan warp nacelles with surgical precision. Explosions bloomed silently across the enemy fleet as ship after ship lost power. "My God," Andrew's XO breathed. "It's working." A new contact appeared on sensors. Andrew's eyes narrowed. Spica's repaired flagship dropped out of warp, weapons blazing. Andrew opened his mouth to order evasive action, but Spica had other plans. "All ships, fire on the moon. Bury these human vermin in lunar debris." Disruptor beams lanced out, carving massive chunks from the lunar surface. The debris cloud expanded rapidly, threatening to engulf the human fleet. "Maximum impulse," Andrew shouted. "Ride the shockwave." G-forces slammed them back in their seats as the Perseverance accelerated to full speed. The AI fed course corrections faster than any human pilot could process. Ships tumbled and spun, somehow finding gaps in the storm of lunar fragments. Andrew's grip tightened on the armrests as a boulder the size of a building missed them by meters. Then they were through, emerging from the debris field directly in Spica's path. "Now," Andrew snarled, "fire everything." Missiles erupted from the Perseverance's remaining launchers, A wall of destruction slamming into Spica's warp nacelles. The Romulan flagship's engines flared and died, leaving it adrift. "Sir," Tactical reported, "Romulan fleet is in disarray. They're breaking formation." Andrew allowed himself a grim smile. "Run them down. Don't let a single ship escape." The networked human fleet pounced, precise volleys obliterating Romulan ships with ruthless efficiency. Andrew watched the enemy contacts wink out one by one until the system was clear. Silence fell over the bridge. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. "Status report," Andrew said quietly. "Heavy losses, sir," his XO replied. "But Earth is safe. We won." Andrew nodded, his expression hardening. "For now. But the Romulans will be back, and in greater numbers. We need to be ready." He turned to face his crew, seeing the same mix of exhaustion and determination in their eyes that he felt himself. "Today, we proved humanity won't go down without a fight. Let's make sure the galaxy knows it." Striking back, Andrew Parker stood on the bridge of the UES Perseverance, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The human fleet, a patchwork of battered ships augmented with stolen Romulan tech, slipped silently through the void of space. Their destination, the Alpha Canis system, home to a vital Romulan supply depot. "Cloaking systems holding steady, sir," reported his tactical officer. "We're approaching the outer picket lines." Andrew nodded, tension coiling in his gut. "Maintain radio silence. All ships, prepare EMP weapons." The fleet glided past the unsuspecting Romulan sentries. As they neared the depot, Andrew leaned forward. "Now, hit them hard." A storm of EMP bursts erupted from the human ships, washing over the Romulan vessels. Lights flickered and died across the enemy fleet as their systems overloaded. "Direct hit," shouted the weapons officer. "Romulan warp drives and power grids are offline." Andrew wasted no time. "All ships, engage. Concentrate fire on their supply stockpiles." The Perseverance's newly upgraded railguns roared to life, spitting hypervelocity slugs at the vulnerable depot. Other human ships joined the barrage, their weapons punching through the weakened Romulan shields. Explosions blossomed in silence across the viewport as deuterium tanks ruptured and antimatter containment fields failed. The Romulan supply hub disintegrated under the relentless assault. On the enemy flagship, Commander Valak snarled orders to his crew. "Divert all power to weapons. We must." His words were cut short as another salvo from the human fleet tore through his ship's hull. Valak watched in disbelief as his surviving vessels scattered, retreating from the unexpected onslaught. Andrew allowed himself a grim smile. "Pursuit force, chase down those stragglers. The rest of you, form up on me. We're not done here." The Perseverance led the charge deeper into the system, towards a larger Romulan colony. As they neared the planet, Andrew turned to his Marine commander. "Lieutenant, assemble your team. We're going groundside." Minutes later, Andrew materialized on the colony's surface with a squad of elite troops. They moved swiftly through the chaos of the surprise attack, targeting the planet's defensive systems. "Sir," a Marine pointed to a massive communication array. "That's our primary target." Andrew nodded, hefting an EMP grenade. "Take it out. We can't let them call for help." The humans fought their way through pockets of Romulan resistance, deploying their arsenal of EMP and disruptor weapons. One by one, the colony's shields and orbital platforms went dark. With the defenses neutralized, Andrew signaled the fleet. The sky lit up as human ships entered low orbit, raining destruction on the Romulan stronghold. Hours of relentless bombardment reduced the once proud colony to smoldering ruins. As the dust settled, Andrew's Marines rounded up the surviving Romulans, including a stunned Commander Valak. "This isn't possible," Valak muttered as he was led away in restraints. "You're nothing but primitives." Andrew ignored him, surveying the devastation. They'd struck a decisive blow, but he knew the real battle was yet to come. The ultimate test. Across the sector, on his flagship, Warlord Spica received word of the brazen human attack. His face contorted with rage as he barked orders to his subordinates. "Recall every ship, every fighter. I want our entire fleet assembled within the day." Spica's eyes blazed with hatred. "We will crush these insolent humans once and for all." Across Romulan space, warships surged to life. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek cruisers, and swarms of fighters assembled into an armada that dwarfed the previous invasion force. Planet-cracking weapons were loaded and legions of troops ready for the coming subjugation of Earth. As the colossal Romulan fleet entered the Sol system, alarms blared throughout Earth's orbital defense stations. Andrew Parker's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill." Human vessels scrambled to intercept the incoming Romulan armada. Railguns blazed and missiles streaked across the void. But for every Romulan ship they damaged, 3 more took its place. On the bridge of the UES Perseverance, Andrew watched grimly as Earth's defenses crumbled under the relentless assault. "We need to buy more time," he growled. "Battle Group Alpha, form up on me. We're going to hit their supply lines." The Perseverance led a daring strike against the Romulan fleet's rear echelons. Human ships darted between lumbering enemy cruisers, their experimental weapons tearing into vulnerable targets. But it was a futile gesture in the face of overwhelming numbers. Andrew's blood ran cold as he watched a Romulan dreadnought obliterate one of Earth's orbital stations with a single shot from its main cannon. One by one, humanity's outer defenses were reduced to drifting wreckage. "Sir, we've got incoming," Reeves shouted. Andrew barely had time to brace himself before a Romulan antimatter salvo struck the Perseverance. The ship bucked violently, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. Acrid smoke filled the air as emergency klaxons blared. "Damage report," Andrew yelled over the chaos. "Saucer section's been hit. We're venting atmosphere. Marines in that section are. They're gone, sir." Andrew felt bile rise in his throat. He pushed it down, forcing himself to focus. "Separate the saucer section. Now." The crew worked frantically, their fingers flying over blood-smeared consoles. With a violent shudder, the Perseverance's warp nacelles detached just as the saucer section erupted in a catastrophic explosion. Adrift in the remnants of his ship, Andrew watched in horror as Spica's forces pushed through the weakening alliance lines. Romulan troops beamed down to the surface of Earth, their boots touching down on human soil. A crackling transmission cut through the static on Andrew's comm. Spica's face appeared on the display, his expression one of smug triumph. "Surrender, human," the Romulan warlord sneered. "Your colonies are burning. Your fleet is in tatters. Submit, and I may yet spare what's left of your people." Andrew's expression hardened. He knew what had to be done. With a heavy heart, he opened a secure channel to his remaining allies. "Execute Operation Scorched Earth," he said quietly. Moments later, the sky above Earth lit up with a blinding light. Antimatter warheads and nanodisruptors rained down on the planet and its orbital facilities. Human and Romulan alike screamed as the inferno consumed them. Andrew watched, his face ashen, as billions of lives were snuffed out in an instant. The once bustling system became a graveyard of twisted metal and radioactive debris. In the eerie silence that followed, a garbled transmission reached Andrew's ears. Earth was under attack. The stealth contingent had begun its assault on humanity's homeworld. With grim perseverance, Andrew turned to what remained of his crew. "Gather every ship that can still fly. We make for Earth. This ends now." As the battered Alliance fleet limped away from the ruins of Earth, Andrew could only hope they would reach their homeworld in time. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the final battle awaited them in the skies above their ravaged homeworld.